Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today you are joining me in my BMW M4, and in this vid I'm going to give you some tips as to what you should be looking out for in 2024 when you are trying to buy an F80 M3 or an F82 M4. So hopefully with my tips you should be able to iron out some of the lemons and shortlist some credible examples of F80 M3s and F82 M4s. So the F80 M3 and F82 M4 have been around since 2014, 2015, and there's loads of these cars now out there on the market. The F80 M3 was phased out in 2018, so the latest one that you can probably buy is going to be a 2018 M3, but the F82 was carried on all the way till like 2020, like this late example here. So there's going to be quite a lot of cars out there that you can choose from like say a low 20k budget all the way to like say a 40k budget for, you know, a real late well looked after example of a M4. And in between there you're gonna find cars with all sorts of age, with all sorts of miles and all sorts of like say conditions, and trying to get one which kind of not only fits the bill but is also a good example is quite difficult in 2024. Certainly that's something that I was kind of experiencing when I was looking to buy another F82 M4. Now my previous one was a 2017 model, but I bought that in 2019, which was like say like a 2-year-old car at the time, and there were loads again at that time to choose from, but it was a little bit easier because the cars were, you could get one like say up to like a year old, but right now the latest car that you can actually buy from an age point is going to be a 2020, which is already 4 years old. So how do you like work out which one's a good example and which one's like a bad example? And the only way is you got to go and sample a few out there and get close up with them. So the first thing to kind of look around the car is look at the general condition of the car, and just get a feel for whether the mileage of the car reflects the condition. So you might see some which might be saying, you know, like 20,000 miles, but when you start looking around the condition, it might be peppered with like say chipstones all over. The interior might have like worse wear on like say the driver's seat bolsters and the steering wheel and all of that, and those are kind of telltale signs that perhaps the car's probably got a mileage blocker on there or whatnot. I actually saw a car which was advertised at 15,000 miles, and when I went to look at the car, honestly it looked like he had done like 55,000 miles on it, and I just walked away from that. Another thing to kind of look out for is like how the car is kind of set up. If the car's been modified heavily, then maybe the car's been like driven quite hard as well. I mean, these are performance cars. You're not going to find, you know, one of these cars just like being driven around town kind of thing. They, you know, most owners are going to drive them quite hard, but it's the way the car's been driven as well. Again, if you see a car that's been peppered with like say, you know, like road stones and whatnot on the bonnet and like the bumper, then clearly the car's had like a bit of a rough life. If you are looking at getting a modified car like a stage 1 or a stage 2, the crank hub is usually something that would, you know, be like a weak point on these engines. So just make sure that, you know, the owners kind of spent some money either doing a complete crank hub fix or you know, some other kind of solution on that. My last one was running stage 1, and that had like a capture plate on it, and I never really had any issues with that. Another thing to look out for are the tyres on the car. A good example should have 4 premium matching tyres. If you find like it's got 4 different tyres on each axle or budget tyres, then just, you know, that the car has not been looked after in the way that it should, and like, you know, there's going to be some cheap maintenance that's being carried forward on the car. Obviously maintenance is quite an issue on these cars, like you got to keep on top of them. It is quite costly, like on like an M3 or an M4, but just making sure that the cars had like regular intervals. I mean, BMW state 18,000 miles between services or oil changes or whatever, but generally if like you come across an example and you see that the cars had like oil changes every like say, I don't know, 6 to 10,000 miles, then that's probably a good example as well. Always go through all the paperwork of the car as well, make sure that the MOTs kind of stack up against each service and whatnot. That way you'll know that the car has actually been like, you know, well looked after. Yes, I know that there's going to be many people out there that are going to say that the number of owners does not matter on these cars, and it's the maintenance that obviously does matter. And yes, I do agree to that to a point. However, I do believe that if a car's got like quite a number of owners, let's say it's a 4-year-old car like this one, but it's got like say 7 owners, then somewhere along the lines each owner has got a different driving style. Each owner might not treat the car in the same way that it should be treated, like i.e. like warming the car up before like really giving it. So there might be like some effects of those kind of driving styles that might affect like the longevity of this car in my ownership. Also, if a car's got like many owners in a short period of time, the maintenance is also going to be skimped as well. So as soon as, let's say, a car comes up for like a huge maintenance bill, it might be passed on to like say another owner, and therefore that maintenance has been skipped, and so on and so forth. I'm just going to put it out there, guys, I hate mileage blockers. I've never used one on my car. I don't see the point, and I certainly feel like if you are putting on a mileage blocker, how can you have a clear conscience in your heart that, you know, when you are going to sell the car to someone who's going to pay good money for it, they're going to get like a car that they're expecting to be of a lower mileage compared to what the actual mileage is. I mean, there's so many tools that, you know, you can use to check, you know, whether the car has ever had like mileage blockers, or have, you know, whether the mileage has ever been tampered with. It's worth getting, you know, a professional check done on the car before you depart with like say your hard-earned cash. So these cars have been around for about 10 years, and they're going to be pretty much everywhere, like from private sellers through independent dealerships to approved dealerships as well. I've always gone down the approved dealership route only because there's a bit of peace of mind. I get a warranty, and if anything goes wrong I can just go back, and you know, you can like really lean on like some of those benefits. If you do decide to go like say private, and as I said before, you do have to go through like say the car with like a bit of a fine-tooth comb just to make sure that, you know, everything kind of stacks up as it should. And if you do, then chances are that you probably could still get like a good example, because a private seller, if the seller's had the car for, let's say, a number of years, and you know, he or she's kind of cherished it along the way, then you do realize that, you know, you might be getting a car that might be better than just walking into like a dealership. Because one thing about dealerships is, like, most cars are on finance, so when the car comes out after like the end of like say the finance term, it gets traded in for something, it'll end up back on the forecourt. So you don't really know the history of that car unless the dealership actually tells you a little bit about it. And let's just face it, they're just gonna want the sale anyway, so they'll just tell you as it is. However, if you get to know like say the personal seller, or the private seller rather, and you can get a bit personal with them about the car, how long they've owned it, what they've done to it, where did they buy it from, you can kind of gauge like a picture. I mean, it's still going to be a risk, but you can put a picture together, whether that's a good picture or a bad picture. So there's no real right or wrong way about buying one of these cars. You've just got to do your own due diligence in that and make sure that you are, you know, getting a good example. Like I said, just check the condition of the car, get it up on the ramp, look at the underside of it if you can. But generally, the touch points of the car will give you a lot away in terms of how the car has been treated. The bolstering on like the seats are usually like a giveaway point in terms of, you know, the actual mileage of the car. I can show you like these bolsters, they've kind of like stacked up quite well against the mileage of this car. This car's just got over 20,000. I've done about 2 of those 1,000 miles on this car, so you know, it's pretty much how I'd expect this car to be, even though I bought this from a dealership. So from 2018, the M3 was phased out due to some emission regulations, because they couldn't get like say the OPF filters in the exhaust system because of like the wheelbase, I believe, of that car, whereas the M4 carried on till 2020. Now, one thing to note is also there were quite a few changes that came with like say the 2018 model cars onwards. The touchscreen became one of the features from I think late 2017. And also the way the cars are, let's say, taxed for road front licenses as well, that all kind of changed. So these kind of fall like within like, let's call it the luxury tax. So up until these cars hit like the end of their 5-year age, you'd be paying like a premium for road tax. I'll say a premium, but there you go. Whereas like a 2017 car, you'd probably be paying a lot less for one of those. So just bear that in mind as well. So guys, I hope you have found today's video informative. If you are looking to buy a M3 or an M4, the F80 F82 generation in 2024, hopefully my tips will help you find a good example. Guys, let me know in the comments below what you found useful when you were looking to buy your M3s and your M4s. Hopefully guys, I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.